Thank you for joining us on the day after, 24 hours after the first ever criminal indictment of a former president and his grievance-laden speech filled with falsehoods to supporters last night at Mar-a-Lago. Political watchers are debating what it all means for the presumed GOP presidential frontrunner. We aren't scheduled to see former President Trump back in court in New York until December, and the trial likely won't start until January, and that's just weeks before the Iowa caucuses. But last night at Mar-a-Lago, he had many of the other pending investigations on his mind.
This lunatic special prosecutor named Jack Smith, who others of his ilk say he's even worse than they are, is only looking at Trump. Then you have a radical left lunatic known as a bomb thrower who is harassing hundreds of my people day after day over the boxes hoax. And in the wings, they've got a local racist Democrat district attorney in Atlanta who is doing everything in her power to indict me.
Just to remind you, because it can get confusing, Mr. Trump is facing two separate DOJ special counsel investigations, a grand jury investigation in Georgia, in addition to the investigation that was undertaken by the Manhattan DA. Joining us now, CBS News political reporter Aaron Navarro and national correspondent and founding partner for Puck, Tina Nguyen. Thank you both so much for joining us. And Tina, I want to start with you because you wrote this article for Puck that was so interesting, taking a look at the president's speech last night and his campaign in general, and talking about how he's begun to glorify January 6th, really embracing it, almost trying to turn it into a positive rather than a negative. What's the strategy behind that?
So there are a couple of factors going into this strategy. First of all, after January 6th, after the events where his supporters stormed the Capitol in order to overturn an election, the MAGA base began to focus on the people who had been arrested by the FBI afterwards, who had been charged for trespassing in the Capitol, who were given sentences. They view these guys as political prisoners who were expressing free speech, that invading the Capitol was free speech, and that they were being improperly punished. In one case, I believe a man committed suicide after he'd been convicted. So there's a bit of a martyrdom complex that has gathered around these victims, and Trump has leaned into it super heavily. If you recall, in one of his recent rallies, he played a song that included an audio recording of him and a lot of prisoners who of the January 6th.
He actually put his hand on his heart as if it were the national anthem.
Oh yes, absolutely. It was him honoring these these martyrs in this political jihad, as I put it. And so he has taken all of the pending investigations against him and this indictment, which is a pretty big deal, just from a macro level, and lumped them all in, connected them with these woes and said, look, you guys were persecuted for your expressing your political beliefs. I was your leader. Look at how they're trying to come after me. I am just like you. These are not indictments that are separate from the motives and desires and ideology of MAGA, which is, we believe the establishment is out to get us. Trump's woes and their woes, ideally in their strategy, go hand in hand. And frankly, if you look at the polling recently, it's starting to work.
And that brings me to another question I have, which is about Ron DeSantis, who has kind of been on the sidelines trying to decide whether to get in or not, and having a very difficult time trying to figure out how to play this whole situation. He's tried to be on the side of the president, the former president, and some of these supporters. That didn't go so well. He's tried to position himself as kind of the anti-Trump, and he's struggled with that too. And I want to ask you about that, Aaron, because you have covered Ron DeSantis so closely. What is his strategy now that President Trump has actually been indicted, and how is he responding to all of this?
Right. And even earlier in March, when he was interviewed by Piers Morgan, he repeated the line, he doesn't know anything about, quote, hush money payments to porn stars, again, kind of indirectly trying to make that contrast. But since the indictment, you've only heard DeSantis criticize DA Alvin Bragg, saying that he is, quote, Soros-backed, noting that DeSantis himself fired a, quote, Soros-backed prosecutor when he suspended State Attorney Andrew Warren. So you've really only seen DeSantis come to Trump's side. And that's the question for DeSantis, Nikki Haley, former Vice President Mike Pence, if he gets in, is how do you thread that needle? Do you decide to continue to defend former President Trump? And does that leave you any room, any oxygen to try and make that contrast and even just pitch yourself and your potential candidacy to voters? And so far, we've only seen the 2024 field really rally to former President Trump's side.
Right. And the question is it enough for MAGA world to just attack the Manhattan DA, to attack what they call a partisan investigation, or do they need to go further and actually rally to former President Trump's support? But, Aaron, I have to ask you about this other really seismic race in Wisconsin, which was another bad piece of news for Republicans, frankly. Yesterday, the liberal in that state Supreme Court race, Janet Protasewicz, winning by 11 points in a purple state where Democrats and Republicans typically win maybe by 1 to 2 points. That was the margin for President Biden back in 2020. So this was a blowout, and it has major implications for abortion, for voting rights in that state, and it gives liberals control of the state Supreme Court for the first time in 15 years. Talk about the significance there.
That's right. I was talking to Wisconsin Democratic Party Chair Ben Wickler on the phone earlier this afternoon, and he said one thing was made clear during Protasewicz's campaign is that she made the stakes of this race clear. When it comes to abortion, when it comes to democracy, redistricting, she really made it a big piece of her campaign. And usually when you look at these state Supreme Court races, they're a bit sleepy. They're not as partisan and not as high octane. But this set records, 42 million spent by both sides. This was a race that really hinged on those issues. And it shows that, at least for Democrats, what Wickler told me is that nationally, they can really look at how Protasewicz really leaned in on the abortion issue. Even after, a lot of the success Democrats saw in 2022, that issue still resonates with younger voters, with voters across the spectrum. And that could be something that could animate the more liberal-leaning or Democratic base when you look at the presidential race in 2024 to the state Supreme Court race to even down to, those local council races and state legislative seats. One thing to note, another big election result last night in Wisconsin, though, there was a state senator in the 8th district that a Republican won that special election. And now Republicans do have a supermajority in Wisconsin. And it's been floated out there by both this candidate and the party that they could potentially look at impeaching Protasewicz and any other officials that they maybe think are corrupt or have violated the law, as they say, in some way. And that's going to be one really interesting thread to follow. Protasewicz takes office August 1st, and we'll see what a Republican supermajority will do there.
Tina, we don't have much time left, but if you're a Democrat looking at this race and you're coming up for re-election in 2024, you've got to be thinking you have to make abortion your number one issue once you see how pivotal it was in this race, right?
Absolutely. And it's better, too, if you're running for a specific race that has a tangible impact on what happens in abortion. With regards to abortion, so state legislature, Supreme Court, obviously, perhaps the Senate, if you're trying to enact national abortion protections on the federal level. I don't know how far you could push that, but if you saw in 2022, you could ride that to a pretty resounding victory in a lot of cases. And the thing with the Republican Party, and especially a lot of conservative leadership, is that they have tied themselves so closely to overturning Roe v. Wade that the moment they do, they're like, oh no, I've got to figure out how to take this thing I've promoted and pushed for decades and enact it in states where people can vote on whether I did was something they like or not. And like absent some, shenanigans and under the table, like tweaking of rules and whatever, Republicans should be pretty nervous that Democrats can take this and be like, this is an existential issue, vote for us.
Right. And if anyone wonders just how important this race was, keep in mind that it was 3 times more expensive than the previous record for a state judicial race. Tina Nguyen, Aaron Navarro, thank you both so much for joining me today.